Welcome back to the shack, everybody. We're heading in to do some more dungeon making challenges. We have to complete levels 2 and 3 for the final bits of equipment. So, as always, let's get going. I hope you appreciated the little touch of the Super Mario Maker music. We've picked up a new chamber stone from the shop. And we'll see what we have. And we've got a special edition. That was the plus rupees effect, which is the special chamber stone you get from getting all 50 secret seashells. This will actually enable you to have a bonus effect of rupees in a room. Well, let's take a look at our level 2 challenge. The first one is Key Hunter. Not the key hunters from Metroid, we have to pick up 4 keys. Needless to say, the central room is one in Key Cavern. Let's get making. And once again, we're good to go. So, this is probably a decent opportunity to actually put together some thoughts on the whole project. It's quite an interesting game, and I know some people probably will have been wondering, is it really worth paying all this money for what is essentially a glorified Game Boy game? And it is a fair question. Maybe you might say it's a little bit much along the way, but I honestly do think there's more to it than just being a Game Boy game. What you're getting, essentially, is the origin of the series as we know it. So let's quickly check, we will need to go back there for a key. A lot of elements which first appeared in this game were carried on throughout the series. They had appeared in some form in the series before. For example, you had magic music showing up, but it was always as a warp method. You did actually have to use music, excuse me, to get past an enemy in Zelda 2, but that was really just one use for an item. It was very minor. This game had the first occasion of magic music actually being connected to the plot, and if you want to get back, just make that jump. So we'll head up here and get the item there. There's also a lot more charm and character to things because you actually have NPCs you really care about, as I've mentioned. And the game actually goes out of its way to make sure you experience that sort of moral dilemma. You know that these are people you really do care about, even though you probably shouldn't in a sense. You get to know these characters really well and get attached to them. So it was quite a shock having to decide whether to defeat evil and destroy the island, or let it thrive but save an island of good people that you've come to know and care about. I know that in a sense, it doesn't quite work to say it like that, but there's something intangible about Link's Awakening. It's still a very solid game as is, a very good effort for the Game Boy. I think, allegedly, the developers wanted to try and put A Link to the Past on the Game Boy, but they didn't make that work, and instead we got this, and the template for the Oracle games as well. Come on, pick it up. There we go. Alright, and in there. While A Link to the Past is essentially the game that defined what the series would become, I thought you could fall through those, and that was really, really brilliant, standing on that while monologuing. Yes, a lot of people can consider that A Link to the Past defined the series, Ocarina of Time refined it. We can just swim around here now. Oh, we will need to bomb those. But a lot of elements that were used by Ocarina of Time and games from then on actually do come from Link's Awakening. And I put the stairs... I did actually put stairs in here, didn't I? Probably haven't lifted up the rock that provided the stairs, that's just it. But, as I was mentioning, a lot of elements come from here, like the NPCs you get used to. Yep, the standard formula of the dungeons, finding the item, use it to beat the boss in some way. A lot of the series originated from here, so in essence you are sort of paying for a bit of a time capsule of the series in a sense. It's still a very solid and well-constructed game for a Game Boy game. So while maybe not everything is 100% justified, it is easy to consider it perhaps a bit on the expensive side. Nonetheless, it is a pretty good game. Nonetheless, it will wind up paying for itself. At least I feel, anyway. Don't forget the Switch, not like the last time. So we can just jump and swing. And what's going to happen to our Stalfos? I think we knocked him up into the air again. But there's our Nightmare Key. I really do think there's a lot to value about this game, and it really does start to grow on you. I think there's not only the beautiful game experience, it's just the charm, the character, everything to do with that. It's just starting to turn into a tennis match. Wait a minute, something actually did a bit of damage. Oh wait, I got knocked into Facade. Long throw. Right in the mush. We've nearly got him. There we go. So really, I do think there's a lot to enjoy about this game. A lot more that you can't necessarily put your finger on in terms of tangibility, but the intangible experience, the essence of the Zelda series is there. And even if it might seem a little pricey sometimes, it really is worth it. I genuinely encourage you, at least try out the original games on the 3DS Virtual Console if you want, but definitely try this out. So let's get arranging on our next dungeon. Bombs away! It's a bomb-shaped dungeon. We're off again on our next adventure. I've created a couple of little dead ends along the way, I'll admit. Sometimes it's nice to actually just cut down on all the work you have to do. We will have to head out this way to grab one of our items, though. Can't quite make it through there. So, well, I've discussed exactly what I like, why I think this game is worth it. It was kind of interesting in a number of other ways, too. As well as setting the formula of use the dungeon item to beat the boss, this was actually the first occasion where every dungeon had a unique theme. And they developed on that very well in this. It would pretty much be the standard for every other game. Also interesting to note that the boss battle theme for this game actually reappears in the Oracle games as the mini-boss theme. Which means that both times in the series it's encountered, Facade keeps its theme. And don't worry, this time I'm stepping on that switch. So, the professional idiot has finally remembered that. But in all honesty, I do think Link's Awakening gave the series a lot more than people give it credit for. It just happens to be sandwiched right in between A Link to the Past, which, as I said, defined the series, and Ocarina of Time, which refined the series. So that we're not troubled by the amazing flying Stalfos again. I think I have to have those switches down. I mean, up. But yes, there really is more, I think, to this series than this particular game than people do give it credit for. It's a very, very solid title, despite being just a Game Boy game. It does a lot with that. It may be in relatively simple terms, but it evokes very powerful emotions. It makes you care about the characters. Oh, that's what that was. So we will need to go to different rooms in order to proceed. It's the fairy fountain over here, I think. Nope, fairy fountain's one down. Yep, so there's my fairy fountain. That is one of the special rooms you can get. We've cleared out all the chests from here, and there it is. That's where we need to go. We'll head on up the stairs, and we'll get our hook shot out. And I think with games like this, the fact that they have such quirky and distinct characterizations actually makes them really important. You have to capture the essence of this game. It's kind of like what they did with the Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia. You can't try and jazz it up too much. Certainly polish it, add in a few modern mechanics. The support conversations were fantastic, but the important point is that they still kept the game as it was meant to be, with all those odd mechanics and everything, because you'd take away everything that made the original Gaiden what it was. And I'm very glad that charm has always stayed with Link's Awakening. It's strange, it's a little bit quirky, and it's very, very fun. Oh, wait, where did I... Oh, hang on. That's right, you get a chance... Well, look, it wouldn't be me if I didn't stuff up one of these somewhere along the way. That's 3 out of 6. I suppose I'm so busy having a nostalgia trip that I'm not paying attention. Didn't take damage there, probably should have. But this won't take too long to rectify. In, across... And our Stalfos is just sort of standing there. He's dead. And there we go. Let's get ourselves the key I missed. Don't worry, this is not exactly a problem. It pretty much is just my own stupidity. I'll admit that perhaps the Dungeon Maker mode could have been a little bit more polished. It would be nice to actually have a game like that where you could tweak elements from specific games, like have the Oracle series engine, which of course is essentially this one, because those games actually did reuse a lot of sprites from this. Many enemies behave the same way. Say something like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, Wind Waker style. It'd be really, really enjoyable, and we've got the Anglerfish as our boss this time. What's it going to be like facing him with the level 2 sword? Alright, come on, fish. There we are, plenty of HP, but not a lot of damage. Some people speculate that the ghost which starts following you after Angler's Tunnel is actually connected to the bones seen at the bottom of the Anglerfish's arena. Who knows? We've got another special chamber. That's pretty much all it's going to be for the sake of this episode, and we've got the plus bombs effect. So let's get arranging on the next one, which is Treasure Vault. I'm going to keep this one very simple. Well, it's simple enough anyway. I probably should have used the plus rupees effect somewhere. I toyed with it, but didn't. Because I've never actually used them. It's time to find out what they actually do. Anyway, so I've discussed what I think of the series and its important impact. I do believe it's genuinely significant, and I'd better make sure I defeat these enemies in the right order in order to get that chest. Oh, can I really only push it this way? You getting there? Oh. Well, that was annoying. That didn't go very well. Where's the case? There we are. And I suppose, with this coming to an end, there will be a bit to discuss along the way. I think it's been a pretty entertaining project actually doing this. I've been recording Pokemon Gold version around the time I've done this, and if I'm going to be honest, Gold version started to feel like a bit of a nightmare. I had so many technical problems with that, I just wanted it out of the way. Thankfully with this, things have worked really, really well. It has generally been pretty smooth. If I've had to re-record things, that's gone well. And it's overall just a very enjoyable game that's really full of charm. I am very glad I've been able to share it with you all, because, well, now it's not going to have to worry about any lack of popularity, but it probably did need that little bit of love beforehand. Because it's sandwiched between two of the best games in the entire series. Of course it's going to have some trouble. Well, we're doing pretty well on the treasure front. Head down this way, stick that, get our boomerang. ₹5, well, not too shabby anyway. And a Hinox to fight. Whoops. Pretty much a triviality at this time because Hinoxes are just strong opponents. Another purple rupee. That previous room was letting the side down. And of course you'll recognise this one from the colour dungeon. ₹20, not too bad. We'll have plenty of money, but I set things up so that we'd get the Nightmare's Key right at the end. Okay, so trying to bash the fireballs into them didn't work. I don't know if you can get pieces of Power and Guardian Acorns in here, come to think of it. And of course I fall off. It's admittedly a little odd sometimes because the doors are slightly off. As I mentioned, sometimes the layout is a little different, but they essentially had to work with those square rooms. That's for all the trouble it gave me while fishing. Surface here, so that one is actually connected to this room. We can bomb this and go down and get some rupees. Biggest change is these are all green instead of blue, which is a bit crap, but it does stop you breaking the game and just farming money, I suppose. That said, we've already got 300 rupees. This is great for grinding. Thankfully, I have the nightmare key. I'm glad I haven't missed any chests. And just to wrap it up, we have a fight with the genie, who does unfortunately still prattle on a bit. So he's still got that annoying speech. Alright, start pitching, buddy. So we can pick this up, throw it against that wall, and he'll actually start throwing fireballs from there. One more hit is going to take him down. Doesn't matter if we take hits, we are going to survive far much more than he will. So, Treasure Vault is clear and we've made a fair packet out of it. Another bonus chamber is ours, and Dampe has been seized with the idea for a new challenge, so let's check it out. We've got one more to go, Passageway Central. We do have to make sure we complete this one, and then we can wrap up this episode, but you'll see that our level 3 challenges are open. Let's get on to making Passageway Central. For the final dungeon, I have kept things simple. Relatively simple anyway. Now it is worth noting that stairs will only connect to the closest set of stairs that aren't already connected to them. You can't manually operate them. So let's just patiently wait this out. Ran straight into it, of course, didn't I? This is a slightly faster method, hopefully. And there we go. The Gomas are out of the way. We can sneak through here and get a free chest instead of an iron ball. So, as I was saying actually about the project, it has been genuinely enjoyable putting all this together. All the technical problems with Gold were pretty much forgotten working on this. I was originally going to have Mario Party DS come after Pokemon Gold version, but, well, this came out and I absolutely love this game and I really wanted to share it with everyone. So, I've put in plenty of work getting this done, and hopefully you've been able to enjoy it. I admit it's maybe not the most complete or professional guide out there. I've done my best to show absolutely everything, even if I did forget a few things along the way. Nonetheless, fairy fountain if you need it. Nonetheless, this has still been a lot of fun. I think it's been a good method of development, building my skills. I have noted that I've really got to make sure I let my own personality flow through. I feel a bit professorial, if that is the correct term. I feel like I'm trying too much to be a teacher, being excessively serious. You might have noticed the Link walked slightly out of the way of that chest there. I mentioned that in the previous episode. But really, I just do need to kick back and have a bit of fun with all this. And I hope I do actually manage to convey that. Now, let's see. We want to stop bouncing and go over that way. We will have 2 chests. Unfortunately, the lasers from the BMOS don't actually damage enemies, which is a bit annoying. But there we go. And 50 rupees again. It will probably only show us how much we have here. I'll have to check what we have after we're done with this. I am going to admit that with this particular challenge anyway, it is fairly repetitive. Seeing the same stuff over and over again. It's just an unfortunate side effect of the Dungeon Maker mode. It's not really that spectacular and it's very difficult to actually put a theme together. Due to the fact that some rooms don't appear, it can be difficult to actually make like a fire-themed dungeon, for example. Sorry. Now, worth noting, this passage is the only one that will connect to that room we just saw because it's the only underwater passage in a dungeon. If we need a health top-up, that is what the Goomba is for. Odd that sometimes it was stunning them, and sometimes it was taking their masks. Anyway, I do feel like I'm developing going through this. I've only been at it for just a few months, so I will gradually get there in time. The first 2 projects have been pretty different. A Link to the Past randomizer was a proof of concept. I will actually do that again at a later date, because essentially you can have a lot of fun with randomizers. There's always something enjoyable about them. I think I was trying to direct that first one too much like it was a regular adventure, rather than just sort of letting myself get into the moment, have a bit of a laugh at what was happening. And with Gold version, I think I lost a lot of enthusiasm because of all those technical problems. I didn't get to use Alakazam and Golem, which was a real pain in the arse. And on top of that, there were all the problems with having to re-record so much and play the whole game again. I was just fed up by the end of it. And that is very unfortunate because it's a good game. But this has made sure that my passion remained. And there's our Nightmare Key. let's go and wrap up the last dungeon for this episode. Thanks for listening to me sort of waffle on about various things. It is one thing I like to do. I want to be able to share my thoughts. Talk a little bit more freely about things. Sort of find out what all of you who are viewing this with me actually enjoy as well. I will be going on to Mario Party DS. It might even be starting by the time this shows up. That's rude. But for our last boss, we're taking on Hothead. So let's get our magic rod and take a rather nasty hit of lava. As I mentioned, it is much harder to stun lock him. You have to be very precise with your shots, because let's be honest, it was a bit broken in the original games. So if anything, it's a bit more of a test of patience and how good a shot you are than anything else. I, on the other hand, am not a good shot. As pretty much anybody who has played GoldenEye on the N64 with me will attest, I'm simply awful. I'm pretty good with grenade launchers, mainly because I had the splash damage, but I'm pretty much a terrible shot. I have even fired an old 303 rifle in real life, and you were in no danger if you were standing in front of the target. Anyway, we have wrapped up the level 2 challenges and acquired a heart piece. So let's just quickly check what we have to do. All our level 2 challenges are complete. The level 3 challenges await us. We will wrap this episode up here, and then in the next one we will complete the final challenges. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you next time on our handmade adventures in a certain part of Koholint Island.